policy conversation.
Speaking at the event, the Principal Secretary, Agriculture and Research, Hamadi Idi Boga, said for food and nutritional security, which is one of the big four agenda by the president to be achieved, the country needs to embrace sustainable practices across industries and while at it think about long-term sustainable practices.
Our aspirations for food security and nutrition security cannot be looked in isolation if we are not discussing the issues of sustainability. And because it's not about food security and nutrition security for today and tomorrow. It's for the long haul.
Start with the Agenda 2063.
However, for this to be possible, the PS went ahead to say that funds have to be set aside at both local and national level to go into research on long-term sustainable programs. This, he says, will then act as a blueprint for the agricultural sector moving forward.
We are also struggling with the systems of how to harness what comes out of research so that it can inform all our actions. So most of the time we do things on the fly without really referring to the evidence and the knowledge that already exists. So I think the lesson that can be learned from here is that the conversation between policymakers and researchers is very key so that research is sustained and policy informs research and vice versa. Otherwise we will be engaging in guesswork.
The agricultural productivity.
Dr. Richard Munang, United Nations Environment Africa Regional Climate Change Programming Coordinator, while addressing the conference, called for sustainable practices to save millions of dollars that go to waste in the agricultural sector.
How can we be able to utilize all of these to be able to drive transformational change, leveraging on what Africa have got in abundance? If you take as example these strategic sectors and how these strategic sectors can actually accelerate the realization of inclusive world. If you take Nigeria as an example, Africa's largest economy in terms of GDP, the agricultural sector makes up nearly 40% of the gross domestic product and generates livelihoods of about 70% of Nigerians. The sector is losing up to $9 billion each and every year as a result of post-harvest losses, primarily due to lack of adequate processing and value addition enterprises. If clean energy is decentralized to Nigeria's producers, these losses will be turned into productivity, specifically into $9 billion worth of income opportunities for farmers, for financiers amongst many, in addition to enhancing food security.
To be able to drive socio-economic.
Dr. Munang further said that Africa's potential needs to be unlocked, but this will only be through research and proper policy making and implementation. This will in turn open up opportunities such as employment to the African youth.
Researchers come up with to target specific bottlenecks towards maximizing the productivity of these catalytic sectors that I've mentioned. For instance, we can talk of enhancing the ease of mobilizing capital and doing business to maximize productivity of these catalytic sectors. But the bigger question that needs to be answered is how can research enable such a move? And that takes me to my third point. We are in a continent that the population is increasing, but this population is youthful. As we're speaking today, almost about 65% of the entire population is youthful. But at the same time, over 60% of this youthful population is unemployed. But all in all, this population represents Africa's sovereign capital, the people, and especially the over 200 million strong youthful population. Their skills, their talents, their energy, their entrepreneurial spirit represents the primary resource in driving the productivity of these catalytic sectors. Rather than premising financial resources sometimes as the most important, which has been the case in the continent today, it is very, very important for research to be able to show how can research enable such a paradigm shift where we can leverage on what the continent have also got in abundance. Financial resources are important, but they are a means to an end, not an end.
Thank you very much. Now,
from the conference, it is clear that for Africa to economically benefit from its wealth of resources, it must embrace sustainable practices and invest heavily in research. These are efforts that will not only translate in the short term, but upon which the posterity of the continent will be built upon.
Applying knowledge, not just generating it, but applying it,